Welcome to the podcast, Faith. I I am so honored to have you and get to talk about your journey and really get to share with everyone a little bit more about past life healing and Akashic Records and all the amazing things that you combine to help people in Muse's community, but also throughout the world. So tell me a little bit on how you got started, actually.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It's an honor for me to be here and to be invited into this amazing community that you have cultivated and attracted. It's been such a joy to be a part of this tribe. And I'm always so excited to talk about past lives and to talk about my work because it is such an important time for us all to be telling our stories. And anybody who is called to the spiritual, we are so grateful to be aligning with just the right, safe, sacred spaces for us to do that, because historically we haven't had that for a very long time. So I'm so pleased to be here. And so my journey started when I was very young. My mother and my grandmother used a form of past life healing, a modality called spiritual response therapy, which uses charts and a pendulum to identify and clear past life trauma. And so I remember going to kindergarten and having some anxiety. I didn't know it was anxiety. I just knew my stomach hurt. And that's my earliest memory of my mom saying, well, let's do some clearing for you. And so it was always a part of my upbringing. I'm from a really small town in Michigan. So it was not until I was in my later teenage years that I started to talk to people about it. And at that point, I was attracting other artistics and creatives and people interested in spiritual. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a really cool thing. And people are interested in this. And it was through that community that I was encouraged to pick up the pendulum and do it myself. So I started doing it myself. Never thought I would do it for a career. I was always on a track to be a performer, never wanted to do anything else from a very, very, very young age. And I felt so lucky. Like, this is my gift. I know this, I know how my life is going to go. I love being on stage. I love, creating with other artists. I love the relationship with the audience. And then eventually, as I was pursuing that track, I moved to Los Angeles. And after 10 years in LA, I was like, this lifestyle really doesn't make me happy. And I knew because of my background that I was supposed to be happy, meaning like there was potential for me to be happy. I didn't need to sacrifice things. And I knew that if I wasn't happy, that something was out of alignment. But I didn't know what it was because I was so convinced that I knew what my purpose was. And so when I was finally able to go through that ego death of, you know what, maybe I don't actually know what's good for me. I'm totally willing to let spirit come in and show me the way. And after I did that, it just hit me like a lightning bolt. It was like, girlfriend, your grandmother was a healer. Your mother was a healer. You are a healer. It brings you such joy to talk about this, to share space in this way, to share your gifts. And so at that point, I committed to my business. And as soon as I committed to my business, my psychic abilities opened up. I started combining things in a way, just totally let myself be guided by this higher power. And since then, it's just been a grand adventure and more joy and purpose and excitement and abundance than I could have imagined for myself beforehand.
That is such a beautiful story, and I think so telling of how a lot of us live our lives. Right? We think we know exactly what it is we're supposed to be doing, but no, I want, this is what I'm supposed to be, and I actually believe a lot of people in the entertainment industry and in the acting community have formed that opinion of that is what they are supposed to do.
Mhm.
And even though it brings not a lot of joy, not a lot of happiness, not a lot of fulfillment, they continue to try to cultivate it. And, it's not saying somebody shouldn't try to cultivate that. It's just that it's almost like, how are we listening and tuning into our own selves and saying, what, maybe this is trying to tell me something else. Maybe there's a tool or some talent that I have that, is really asking to be explored, and how can I honor and do that?
Yes, yes, it's so true. And we feel like we are invited to think bigger, in the sense of, for me as an actor, it was like, what do I really love about this? I love being on stage, I love performing, I love connecting with an audience, I love great literature, it excites me. And so being able to realize, well, I can do that in a lot of different ways, and that was something I had been so resistant to beforehand. And now it is, I use my training as a performer in my work. My understanding of energy and emotions has totally transformed how I understand how to manifest and how I teach manifestation. And I'm so grateful for the people who are following that track, right, of being performers. But it is a difficult life, and so anybody who's listening who is there, it's like, you are called to find that joy and that richness, because so much of that lifestyle is, and so many other lifestyles, is waiting for someone else to give you work. So it's like, what can I do now that fills me up, that brings me joy, that makes me feel in alignment, that reminds me why I'm doing this? And we're seeing this shift of spirituality coming into movie making, coming into television. We're watching it happening. There is this new generation of filmmakers coming in who are connected to spirit, and who are using that modality to express these higher principles. And it's really exciting to watch. And artists of all kinds are so tapped into the divine. Creativity and spirituality are so interlinked, and we see so many people from that lifestyle who want to go and become yoga teachers, sound facilitators, et cetera, et cetera. And it's because they're so close.
They're
Yeah.
so close. I mean, you think about that, right? So it's very Neptune. If you think of
Mm,
Neptune and just the creativity that comes with Neptune kind of elements, which is the television, which is media, which is that kind of art form, and then the highest vibration of it really truly is the connection with the divine.
yeah.
So if you're looking at it, it is all totally connected and totally related. And what
Hmm.
frequency level are you playing at in the
Right.
Neptune world? And we are living in such a Neptunian world right now, just astrologically. And all I can say is, anyone who's kind of even going through these weird emotions since the beginning of October, to it's getting even weirder, um, you can thank Neptune for that, because it's almost delusional to a point of
Mm,
illusion. So just remembering to ground ourselves out. This is just kind of a side note on things, but it's kind of an interesting time.
mm,
How are we connecting
mm-hmm,
in that way to the divine,
mm-hmm,
in the highest form possible, instead of getting lost into the illusionary forms, that can even be the lowest of the low, which is drug related or any type
mm-hmm,
of lower frequency. So
mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm,
I don't know why that came through. It just did. So I'm just sharing that.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't even mean to get off. I wasn't trying to get off topic, but that kind of threw me. Um, Tell me a little bit too on, because you and I have worked together. I've had a session with you. I actually came across the graph you had given me, the picture of
Mm.
the oh gosh, it's like a, what do you, it's like a paragraph,
The shape, the pattern. Mm-hmm.
exactly, the pattern. And I was looking at it the other day going, oh my gosh, Faith just gave this to me. I must, there's a reason I'm looking at this picture right now. Can you explain that a little bit more to our audience on how that, that was passed down from your grandmother and your mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how that works to help, it's almost like help shift some nerves, something in the brain.
There's a book that accompanied the spiritual response therapy manual that's just called Spiritual Healing, and it's this book of channeled shapes. And anybody can buy this on Amazon. Robert E. Detzler is the author and the channeler of this material, and there are all these outlines of these funny looking geometrical shapes. And I refer to them as a form of sacred geometry because that's really what they are. And they were channeled from a higher place, and they all have different uses. They'll be for indigestion or fatigue or fearfulness or feeling at ease, emotional balancing. And in my sessions, I'll be called to use one of these shapes, and we just ask that the frequencies be applied. And when people use them on their own, they can just put their hand on them, ask that the frequencies be applied. I really encourage people to charge their water on them. We're in such an exciting time understanding how malleable water is, how absorbing it is of different things we can use with it, flower remedies, crystals, affirmations, sacred geometry, and it raises the frequency of the water, which we know is most of what makes us up. And so these sacred geometry shapes that I use as a part of my work are incredibly powerful. Sometimes I've had clients who are so in their trauma, they have so much stress trapped in the body that even asking that the frequency of the shapes be applied over Zoom, they can have physical reactions to it where we have to stop and we have to pull back. So it's one of those tools, and I couldn't tell you exactly what part of the body they resonate with or they use, but I use them as a tool in my work, and I know that they raise the frequency of our cells. I've watched it happen. I watch how people react to them, how they feel when they use them on a regular basis, and it's like magic. And I just love it so much. It's like this mysterious thing that we have, but that's available to us all. It's available to us all.
Yeah, it's amazing because we're so used to just even normal geometry shapes in our own, in
Right.
our own everyday world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are
Mm-hmm.
those doing, right?
Right. Yeah. And
something consistently.
And we look at things like mandalas, right? Or if people are familiar with the Archangels, Metatron's cube, those are also intricately designed sacred geometry shapes that we are welcome to put under our pillow at night, keep on our person, meditate with, and we just have to receive. And it's just an example of we feel like we have to figure everything out on our own, but it's like no, we have all these gifts. We have all these gifts around us that we have access to, many that are free or financially accessible to people. And we just have to be open to receiving, and that will help us on our healing journey on an even deeper level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yes. That's absolutely the truest of the true information, right? It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Nothing has to cost a lot of money, especially on this healing journey. I think that's kind of the confusion that happens is, but you could do these little things. You just make these little adjustments and see what happens, see how your day unfolds differently.
Yeah.
And I've found that with just mantras in the morning, doing mantras in the morning and having kind of that routine. How can you do a mantra for 40 days and tune into the body? It could be 3 minutes. How is your after 40 days, how is your day changing?
Yeah.
Because what would happen was I would I would no longer get, even just things like red lights. And then all this, and I would get places quicker, right? Those simple things. And then when I don't do it, and then I go back into that old frequency, I kick myself because it's like, what are you doing? You're slipping here. So kind of reframing, put yourself back in that, okay, it might be 3 minutes, but those 3 minutes will change.
Yeah, doesn't take very much. You need to do what you can, especially as you're starting this journey. We think that, like, oh, if I'm going to start a meditation practice, I have to put aside an hour a day. It's like, in an ideal world, sure. But if all you have is 3 minutes, soak up those 3 minutes and do what you can. And know, just like you said, it's a cumulative effect. After one day, you might feel something, you might not. After a week, you probably will. After a month, you definitely will. And then it helps you to separate in those moments from those emotional triggers. And being in LA, talking about traffic, like one of the biggest stresses for all of us, right? And being able to feel the anger, the frustration when it's coming up, and laugh at yourself and laugh at your little human self instead of giving into it, that is empowerment. That is magic, right? And having any kind of little habit, whatever tools you're using, is going to help you get to that place. And then you don't feel like a victim anymore. And that's really where we're all going.
That's you said it. You
Yeah.
said it. I can't even say it better. That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. I wanted to actually touch back on, you had mentioned, just being in the acting and performing world, you had mentioned about certain directors or shows or movies that have come out that are kind of in that alignment with spirituality. And I wanted to know what they are. I was like really curious to know, do you have a couple of shows or a movie you can recommend to people who might be curious?
Um, well, I know there's a couple really great documentaries on Netflix.
Huh?
Healing is one that I watched. Of course, Michael Pollan's documentary. I forget what it's called. That one is really great. I know a lot of, young filmmakers, and I'm seeing more people doing fundraising for things. So I see that it's happening. So I feel like in the next, 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a shift, and Hollywood is going to get on board, because Hollywood is all about market research. And as more and more people are expressing interest in these concepts, they're going to test and they're going to see that's what people want to see. And we're going to see more mainstream things coming out in that way. But I'm seeing, there's more exploration of like parallel lives. I'm seeing more people talk about that. And I don't have any other specific things. I'll probably get 5 of them as a hit later, and I'll text you. I'll be like, I should have said these ones. But I would just encourage people to be on the lookout, because they are coming to the forefront more and more and more and more.
I would be so excited to see that, because
Yeah.
there's such a slim amount of things that I can really even watch anymore,
Right.
because the frequency has shifted so to the opposite side. Especially in 2020, I've questioned this on the podcast before, is why did we see such a huge shift in the horror genre
Mm.
during a pandemic, of all things, right? And what a great way to raise the fear consciousness. Keep it
Yeah.
high, keep it really high, because keep people there, because that's such a niche market. Like, it was a niche market of, nobody liked horror. I remember growing up, and that was, I would say it was, my favorite genre at that time, and people would look at me like I was nuts. So
Mhm.
now it's a bigger world in Hollywood, that
Right.
genre. And so I've been so eager to see more on what you're speaking about, and
Hmm.
to start to see people who are more conscious, and the conscious evolution coming through in the media world, because it's been so needed. It's so desperately needed to see people who are aware and awake. It doesn't even have to necessarily be spiritual, but just
Right.
conscious.
Right. Right. And as we get more filmmakers, writers, executives, people at those higher levels who are women, who are people of color, which we are also seeing happening more and more, we're also going to see more of that content coming through.
Yeah.
So just hang tight. It's coming. It's
Okay.
coming for
I'm
sure.
ready.
For
I'm
sure.
ready. Sign me up. um, The other thing that I really wanted to talk about a little bit was, just Akashic Records.
Mhm,
We've there's been a lot of discussion on Akashic and how that works, and it's a little bit tied. It's tied to past lives. Is that
mhm,
correct?
mhm,
Right.
mhm,
So if you could help explain what that is and how it's tied to past lives, and if it's
mhm,
the same.
mhm. Absolutely. So I describe the Akashic Records as the iCloud of everything that has ever existed,
Good. Yeah.
everything that's ever been thought, everything that ever will exist. And that is the space we enter when we are finding out about our past lives. An Akashic Records reader is usually someone who will put you into a meditation, into a semi hypnotic state that will allow you to access this information, which other people have described as a library, a huge library of everything that their soul has ever been through, that humanity has ever been through. And so you can also think of it as the quantum field, right? This is the space of all possibilities where our highest selves exist. And so it's also, if people are familiar with the multidimensional chakra system, we have a soul star chakra, which is just above the crown chakra. And that's also that energy center that allows us to enter into this work, into this field. And so it is my gift that I'm able to access this information in a waking state. So I don't go into a meditation. I don't put my clients into a meditation, and I see things and I hear things and I feel things. And so this is the space where we can explore our soul's journey and what our soul has been through. And I describe, the importance of past life healing, as it's if we don't do it and we're just looking at our life and trying to make sense of it, it's like opening up to the middle of a novel and trying to read it forward. It just doesn't make any sense to us. We have to go backwards in order to see how we got here, why we have the challenges that we have in this lifetime, why we have the soul contracts we have, the relationships with people, what our gifts are and why we chose them, why we even chose this particular body in this lifetime. And it is going into this realm and getting those pieces of information as we are called to. There's a reason we don't remember it all, and there's a reason that certain ones come up at a certain time, because it offers us healing. And in the work I do, we work with very high level guides to release any trauma that may be held in the body, that the soul is hanging on to as the result of a past life experience. A lot of times when we're working in past lives, it starts with, okay, well, there were traumas that happened that haven't been healed. We know the effects of trauma in this lifetime if they go unhealed, and that doesn't stop from lifetime to lifetime. And so it is going in there and getting a little bit of information about that, and we can like set our soul free. So then we don't have those triggers we don't understand, right? And we can live in this space and really align with our most optimal timeline, our most confident, empowered, fun, abundant timeline, without all this baggage that we've come in with. And that's what we're really called to do. And
Yeah.
the older souls you are, we're called to this kind of work, because there is real freedom and liberation and understanding and peace on the other side of this work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you find that this has kind of been my main question with Akashic, and so once you know, say, a trauma of a
Hmm.
past life, is
Hmm.
it just the awareness and the knowing of it that
Hmm.
removes that frequency from the body, or is it other work you're having to do to actually go in and remove that energy or that memory?
That's a really great question, and I think a really important conversation around past life healing. If you are, the awareness itself can sometimes be enough. But if you're working with any kind of healer, they should lead you through some kind of process to help the body release it, to help your soul let it go. So there might be some other levels of healing or soothing or purging that need to happen. It's not uncommon for people in past life regressions or in other forms of past life healing to have really, big emotional outbursts and to weep about something that happened in a past life that they don't remember, but they, as you're being led through it, they feel it in the body. You can feel those emotions coming out.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just an awareness, but I would say a lot of times there is some other kind of releasing or healing, working with, again, your celestial team to help let that go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I find that with myself, I it's almost like I have to do more work.
Mm,
Sometimes it's like the awareness is there, and then I'm always like, what else do I need to do beyond the awareness? And so
right.
that's kind of been, especially when you get re-shown things, which kind of happened to me recently, right?
Mm,
Things
mhm,
that maybe you're like, I felt like I've cleared a lot on that topic.
mm,
And then you're
mhm,
like, oh, but here you're going to get re-shown this again, and that's, um, I think that's really common. I think that we're going to go through this entire life, and I'm sure these things are going to continue to come up in smaller forms. How
mhm,
are we responding to them?
mhm, mhm. And in those cases, I think we've all had those experiences. It's like, I thought I healed this. I
Mhm.
thought I was over this. And when that comes up and again, it's, well, like, oh, I guess not. No judgment. You've done as much as you can, and now there's another layer to it, which means there is an opportunity for growth and ascension. We get so down on ourselves and feel like we've taken a step back, and I'm not saying this is what you've been feeling, but I know, my clients talk to me about this, and it's like, no, you're not. This is the next step forward. And when you have those moments, I always say it just comes down to just ask, what can I do to help myself here? When you're getting those images and those downloads on your own, it's much more confusing, right? Well, what do I do with this information? Just ask. Doesn't matter who you ask. Doesn't matter if it's the universe, if it's your angels, if it's even a friend or YouTube. Just ask. And if we know that we see it and we don't know what to do with it, if we are open to looking at it and moving through that dark forest, the universe will show you where the light is. The universe will show you how to get there. Maybe it's tools you've used before, and maybe it's something you haven't tried yet. But as long as we have the intention for healing, that is a magnet for the universe to show us whatever it is that we need.
That's, yep. That's
Yeah.
setting the intention for healing. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, kind of one of my big questions for you is what, how old were you when you decided to, you know, take that turn from performing,
Mm-hmm.
actually tuning in and listening to the other side saying there's something more here? How
Mm-hmm.
old were you? Were you going through kind of a Saturn return? Were you going through your Uranus opposition? There's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that I try to figure out, just like timeline wise, because
Mm-hmm.
astrology has a way of almost making you see something that you didn't see, but at a certain time, it's usually plays out in the timeline. So I want
Mm-hmm.
to know, when did that happen for you, where you realized, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
I need to do this other thing?
It started, I think it started when I was 33. So right at the end of my Saturn return. And then I really committed to it when I was 34.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's interesting. So that would almost be something with Jupiter coming in there too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of dove, were you performing up until then, until about third grade?
I was auditioning, and I had kind of stopped doing theater at that point, which was sad for me. But so I was auditioning, and then I made a little bit of a switch to trying to focus more on writing screenplays. But then for me, I realized, well, I'm still waiting for someone else to give me a job, and for me, that wasn't comfortable for me, and it was hard for me to write. Like, I love to write, but writing, it didn't come easily to me. And
Yeah.
after trying to force myself through it, I was like, you know what, I don't think that this is for me either.
Yeah. Do you think
Yeah,
you'll ever kind of go back into that world, but maybe with conscious content?
I do, yeah, I do.
I
Yeah.
don't know why that's what I am picking up from you, because I can see that you're naturally in that state of communication and speaking
Hmm.
and presenting yourself, and that comes through very clearly. Um,
Mm.
and like what I was saying before, I think it's so needed. I think we have so many different things that, I mean, we've been talking about a show, like a conscious dating show,
Mm.
where it would be really, really interesting to have that kind of come together in a way that was like, even if it was based on the book of conscious coupling. There's a book, Conscious Uncoupling, but then how can you do conscious coupling in a way where you're both aware and both awake?
I love that idea
it,
so much.
it seems like it would be, I watch, The Bachelor or whatever, all the, I do, that's like kind of a guilty pleasure, right? But you see it and you go, okay, well, if they're not quite there, and out of no judgment, everybody's, at different levels, and they're a little young, and they're emotional, they're coming from emotional places and all those things. But what if you did it and it would almost be for a little bit older people dating, I think.
Mm.
but
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
could be really cool.
I'm so on board. Like, what, I'm so on board. I think that that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm like, let's get this going.
Yeah.
Okay. What I don't know, what else would you like to share about what you're doing uh now, but also like in the upcoming future, of how you see yourself progressing in this way? I know you've done events at Muse, which has been amazing. But how are you kind of continuing your own journey and
Mm,
of growth and expansion?
mm, mm. What a beautiful question. I did my first retreat this year. I co-hosted my first retreat in Sedona in August, which was incredible. And because my business was in effect before March of 2020, but it was really in March of 2020 that I knew that this is my calling without a doubt. When people talk about a calling, I felt it, and I just knew I had to step forward. And so my entire business until this year has been online, basically. So, which has been incredible. And I've connected with people all over the world and really expanded my community. But as things were opening up, I was like, I live in this amazing city. Like, why am I not connecting and getting out there and making more community locally? And so I am eager. So a lot of feelers are out, and I'm eager to continue to do that. And I see the value of retreats. And so I see myself offering more of those, both locally and, throughout the United States, and also internationally. There's such value in there, because a big component of my business is creating community for people.
Yeah.
I noticed very early on, people were coming to me, and I was the only person that they could talk about their psychic awakening and their psychic experiences with. And I thought, I'm seeing so many people every single week who are in this space. Y'all should start talking to each other. So I started connecting people with each other and have watched such beautiful, really strong friendships form with people, most of whom never have met in person. And at the retreat, just seeing how the people that myself and my other facilitators attracted, these incredible beings who needed each other, and people played different roles for each other during that event, and it was such a safe space. We really need that time to replenish ourselves and to get reconnected. And so that is something I definitely see myself incorporating more of in my business. And there are things, I'm ever a student, so I'm always interested in learning more. I would like to learn more about astrology. I would like to learn more about becoming a medical intuitive, because in my work I'm working with the physical body, the spiritual body, and the energetic body. A lot of times I start with the chakras. I'm a Reiki master teacher as well. And so I'll start with the chakras, and I find that there can be blocks in the chakras that lead me into past life traumas that, once we release, can allow that energy center to be more open. And I do tune into the organs. I work a lot with the work of Louise Hay. And so I'm able to identify when there are energetic blocks around different systems in the body, and I would like to become more versed in that, so I can be of service to people, because we know what a failure our healthcare system is.
Yeah.
We know, it's really horrific, the system that we have in place, and more people are being called to these alternative healing modalities. I'm very clear, I am not a doctor, and anything I offer, please talk to your healthcare practitioner. This is meant to be used, along with other modalities, that you're using. But there is such a need to understand the connection, the mind, body, spirit connection on a deeper level. When we understand, okay, I'm having issues with my thyroid. Okay, well, I'm sensing there's throat chakra blocks, which have to do with communication, expression, authenticity, fear of rejection and judgment, etc. And if we go backwards into the Akashic Records and we see, oh, I've had many lifetimes where I've experienced also trauma, physical trauma, and lifetimes where I haven't been able to use my voice. And using all that together, that can really amplify the healing and accelerate the healing journey. And so I love offering that to people. And I'm always full of so many other ideas. So there's a million other things in the works too. But
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think no, the retreat idea, I mean, what you're doing, just even with that and how you're explaining it and creating the community, um, I would like to amplify that just point, because there's a time where, we're all going through right now, whether it's the Pluto return of America, whether it's all this other stuff happening. The more you can stand together in a community with the same, not even the same ideals, but similar ideals, where people are taking on different responsibilities, right? Us as healers per se, or in this type of community, we really have worked alone for a very long time. I mean, I think about that, just how my astrologer, right? She works alone. There's no one else who works with her. It's very isolated. And so how can we connect in a way where we're all benefiting? And so
yeah.
I love you just even touching on that point, because it's why CASA was kind of brought to fruition. I kept seeing these visions, and yes, I maybe am a little ahead of the game on on some things, but I really like pulling things into reality, creating a space, and then having people come together, because that's what it's meant to do. And that's what even Muse Retreat was meant to do. It wasn't,
Mhm.
it was meant to be a lighthouse for people to come together and build a community that then would be able to expand and grow.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would love to help in, with retreats and be able to kind of even start to have you facilitate it this space in
Mm,
a way in that capacity, because it is about creating friendships and lasting bonds and things that are, that are becoming more and more disconnected in different ways because people are breaking off from their normal social ties, you know.
right.
So
Right.
it's needed. And
Yes. Yes. And for the people, as light workers, we are creating community, but you touch on something so important is that we need community too. The spiritual entrepreneurs need community. And when I love working with other entrepreneurs. And one of the things I always say is you got to get your group together, because if we don't have people that can support us and that we can bounce ideas off of, you just get stuck in your head. And so in order to create community, you need community. And as we're watching this divine feminine energy rising that we all signed up for, we were like, hey, I want to be on earth for this because this is really exciting to watch. We know that that energy has deliberately been kept separate for a very long time. And so we are now, as we're watching this patriarchy crumble, it's the time that we are finding each other again, because we are so much stronger together. And there's so much that's out of our control in this life right now. It feels like we're living in this pressure cooker. And so we are called to go inward and to identify our own truth, and to be in community, and to be of service, and to support each other, and to let ourselves be supported. And so, girlfriend, like, let me know, like, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm on board.
that's amazing. I love that. I truly do, because when you build things, right, or when you create spaces, or it's like that field of dreams type of idea. If you build it, they will come, right?
Mhm,
There's
mhm,
still that piece of like fear that comes into play of like, what if no one comes? What if no one
mm,
shows up? And what if, you know?
mhm,
So me more recently releasing that little pieces of self-doubt
mm,
that
mhm.
come into play, because I do know through my own astrology and everything else, I am ahead of the time. And my astrologer loves to tell me, like, Ash, a lot of times the issue is you're like 3 years ahead and everybody's, you know, a little bit trying to figure it out still.
Right.
And that can be kind of a, a strange place to be. It can be very free and exciting, but it also can be a little bit like, where are they coming? Are they gonna is
Mm,
one, catching up? And like
mhm,
slowly it
mhm,
happens. So
mhm, mhm,
so I'm here, and we have the space, and
mhm.
you're already connected to us. So yeah, that would be fun.
Amazing. That would be amazing. And
Yes.
they are coming. And it's almost like that manifestation sort of leeway time, that lag time we have sometimes, where it's like it's all coming in beautiful divine timing. It's not on our timeline, but it is happening. And if we continue to have faith, right, the key of all manifestation, if we continue to have faith that it's coming. And in a service-based industry, it's like knowing I am a vessel. I feel called. So I am allowing spirit to work through me. I know I have something to offer. I know I have a voice that is different from anyone else. And I always tell people we have a million doctors, we have a million dentists, we have a million gynecologists, right? So we can have there's room for just as many light workers and spiritual entrepreneurs too.
Absolutely. And I would love for people who maybe don't even feel like they're a light worker or a
Mhm,
healer, right, to understand that their power, all that power that we maybe give to others, whether it's a doctor or a
mhm.
healer or anything else, it's already within ourselves,
Yes,
right? And so
yes.
it's how can we remind others and remind myself that we have the power to heal our own bodies. I mean,
Mhm.
not saying don't do medical doctor things,
Right.
but truly heal
Mhm,
even the ideas we hold in our head that
mhm,
get us down in depression and dark thoughts. Like, we have the ability to shift that,
mhm,
and if we
mhm.
harness that ability and that capability, you can kind of do anything. So
Yeah. And that is the teaching of every great spiritual teacher. They are always trying to convey, I am not different from you. I am a reflection of you. I am showing you what your potential is. And we're learning to see those people who inspire us. We a lot of times have this trigger reaction of, oh, look at that person. Oh, I can't do that. Or, oh, that just makes me feel bad about where I am. And instead making that switch of going, wait, I'm inspired to see what this person is doing because they're reminding me that I am also an extension of the universe. I am also the energy of spirit that is in everything. And the more I open up to believing that, whew, the faster your life is going to change in a way that brings you joy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And on an ending note, what do you see kind of, like, if you could take a, whether it's a crystal ball or just kind of tuning into your own idea, what do you see kind of playing out for this next year of 2023? Do you see? Yeah.
For 2023, I see there's going to be more chaos, like we just know, and we just need to be prepared for it at this point, but know that if you continue on this spiritual path you can navigate through anything, right? But but we're going to see more, innovations. I think we're going to start to see more gifts from the earth that are revealed to us, as and I think that there's going to be we're going to see more organizations that are coming to the forefront that are really doing good works. Like right now I feel like, we're in like the underground that's happening, but I feel like there's going to be either some celebrities or really prominent people who are speaking these things and creating organizations that promote these ideals that we know are for the benefit of humanity. And, it's still going to be difficult, but it's important. The more that we all know this is passing, the planet is not going to end. Humanity is not going to end. We are anchoring in at this moment what is going to be revealed in 100 to 200 years,
Right.
right? And so the more that know that this, if you are called to this spiritual path, with anybody who's listening to this, is the healing you're doing is rippling out. It's healing your ancestors, it's healing your community, it's healing your family, and it's rippling out across the globe. And I think we're going to see, in 2023, I feel like something, as I'm talking about this, something big is coming in the healthcare system. There's going to be some kind of blow up, something,
Okay.
is what's coming through to me. And things are going to continue to get restructured. And so it's just good to know, we take care of yourself. Like, you come first, take care of your body, your mind first, and then you can be of service to others. And we get so overwhelmed thinking there's all these problems, there's all these things. Just pick
Yeah.
one, just pick one, right? And like that is beautiful. And know that holding the door for someone, smiling at someone, that's a frequency that can change someone's whole day. So we should give ourselves some credit that again, controlled burning is a real thing that happens, right? That helps our forests,
Mhm.
helps it to grow. And we've had so much momentum going for so long that it can only result in the destruction that we're seeing. But there is healing that's coming. There is healing that's coming. And we are all volunteered to be here for it. And as long as we're on this planet, we have things to learn, we have things to offer. And we're going to see, I think we're probably going to start seeing some of that more spiritual content that we were talking about earlier, too. So buckle up, but it's all temporary. It's all just a ride. It's all just a ride.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so
Yes.
much for that and for being with us for this time and sharing everything that it is that you shared. It was profound. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having this platform. Thank you for inviting me on. It's so joyful to co-create with you. So thank you for all that you do.
Same.